Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial on Android application development, and here we are going to learn about intents. So I'd like to first explain to you what basically an intent is. So you see a lot of these UI screens in any of the mobile applications. So each of these UI screens is either associated with an activity or a fragment. We'll not go to a fragment part right now, but let's just focus on activity. So each and every UI that you see is associated to a Java class, which is basically an activity in Android. Now these transition from one UI to the other is basically called intents here. So there are two types of intent as given by Android. So the first one is explicit intent. So what explicit intent is basically those transitions within the scope of your applications. So if you have created multiple activities like main activity, first activity, second activity, and when you apply transitions between these activities inside your application, that is explicit intent. Now implicit intent goes beyond the scope of your application. Suppose you're opening a camera from your application, or maybe you're accessing contacts from your application, or maybe you are sending your intents to web browser, opening some kind of links. So that's what implicit intent is. Now one point to remember is that during these transitions, it's not only just about transitions, but we can also send data between those transitions. So this is what we're going to examine here in our example. So I've just created a new project. I'm going to go into my layout file. Let me just remove this. I'll just use linear layout for simplicity for now. Linear layout. Okay, so I don't need these two parameters. I need these compulsory parameters here: match parent, height, match parent. Okay, and let's start a button here. Okay, so let's give this wrap content. Also open design here, or maybe do it in a split way. Also give orientation to your linear layout. Now we need to give a text. Let's just give go to first activity, which will be our explicit intent. Okay, explicit intent. Now what more do we need? Okay, we need an ID, obviously, which can be given as btn expl. Okay, expl. Okay, so this will be our first button. Let's also add some more buttons here. Button, we are going to pass again. Let's give wrap content. Wrap content text. Let's go to our browser, or maybe some external application. Okay, we'll go for browser for now. Go to browser, which will be an implicit intent, and let's also give an ID here. Okay, so this is going to be btn impl. Okay, now we'll add one more button. As I told you already, it's not only about shifting, but you can also pass data to your intents. So from the third button, we'll be passing some data. Okay, we'll type something and then we'll pass that data into your application. So let's give an edit text, match parent, wrap content. Our edit text is here, as you can see. Hint, type some value to pass. Okay, an ID, let's give it et input, and we're done with this. Now one more button. Wrap content, sorry, ID, let's just give it btn expl data. Okay, expl data along with data. Now text, explicit data to second activity, which will be our explicit intent with data. Okay, so this is our next button. Now what we are going to do is we're going to apply our logic, or write the logic for these codes, for these components in our Java. Okay, so if you haven't done or if you haven't completed, just pause the video and then complete it. Meanwhile, I'm going to Java. Okay, so we have three buttons and one edit text, which I'll have to define here. So my first edit text is input. Now I have three buttons here with a very simple intent. Okay, let's just write explicit and implicit and explicit underscore data. Okay, nothing is a keyword here, so I'll have now I'll have to initialize these objects. So input equals to find view by id r dot id dot et input. Done. Explicit equals to find view by id r dot id dot btn expl. Okay, let me just copy this. My other is btn impl, which is an implicit button. Now again, explicit data equals to find view by id r dot id dot btn expl. Okay, so now we need to insert clicks inside these. So what I can do is I can do my clicks in two different ways, or maybe three different ways, but we'll discuss the basic two different ways here. So I can either do input dot set on click listener new on click listener for individual buttons here, or what I can do is I can just skip this here. Now I'm going to do the same for explicit intents too. Explicit dot set on click listener this, and then explicit data dot set on click listener this. Now what I can do is, since I've given a parameter here called this, so I'm calling the context of this class, which means as I if you know, I basically have to give or override an interface here. So if I'm calling the context of this class, what this does is I'll have to override that interface in a class declaration itself, and it provides me one function, public void on click view. So what I have to do is if, or maybe I'll do id equals to integer id equals to v dot get id. Okay, and I'll have to compare if id equals to r dot id dot btn impl. I'll do something else if id equals to r dot id dot btn ex. Okay, no suggestions for me, something is wrong. R dot id dot okay, btn expl. I'll have to do something else, and else if r dot id dot id equals to r dot id dot btn expl data. Right, no. Yeah, btn expl data. So I'll have to do something else. Okay, so between these three conditions, I'll have to apply different intents here. So we'll first do an explicit intent in our application. So let's just start with intent. I equals to new intent. As you know, there are two parameters that I need to provide here. The first parameter is the context of this source class, which is main activity dot this, and then the class name of the class where I'm going. So it can be first activity dot class. Okay, and I'll just say start activity I. It's done. I'll have to create this first activity. So how I can do this is I'll just copy this name, go to my source package, right click on it, and new activity and empty activity. So I'll just give my name here, name first activity, and then a layout name is created called activity underscore first, and hit finish. And it's created. It's doing more than just creating the class. It's also creating a layout file for activity for first activity, and my class and my activity name declaration is also done in my manifest. So it's not only just about creating just one class or one Java file, but it's also about creating a layout to associate with it and then declare it in my manifest, so that my system can identify, or my mobile phone can identify that okay, first activity is also an activity for this application, and it needs to be processed in that way. Now okay, this is almost done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to define one implicit intent 2 here, and then I'll run it all at once. Okay, so for implicit intent, let's just open our camera here. So I think we can do it. Let's just set intent I equals to new intent. So what I'm going to do here is media store. So we're calling our external application, so we'll just set action underscore image underscore capture. This actually calls our camera or starts our camera here. So start activity I. Okay, we're done with this also. So if we hit explicit intent, we're going to go to first activity. If we hit implicit intent button, we are going to open our camera. Now if we hit our explicit intent along with data button, so what we're going to do is we have our edit text or input text or our input field here. We're going to type some value here and then pass it to some other class here. Okay, so let me just extract that value first. So string user input equals to input dot get text dot toString. First of all, toString. Okay, this is done. Now we need to pass this inside our intent. First we'll define our intent I equals to new intent main activity, again the source class name, since we are again going for explicit intent, so it's the same as this one. Okay, so main activity dot this, and then we'll go to second activity dot class. Not only this, but we're also going to associate some value here. So let's just create a bundle b equals to new bundle. Okay, now inside this bundle I'm going to put my string value here. So bundle put string. We always have to associate our value with a key. So our value is going to be user input, that's going to be passed to the other application, but we'll have to associate this with a key. So let's just write key here. Okay, now we need to put this bundle in our intent. So I dot put extras, which is intent dot put extras b, and then finally start activity I. Okay, so okay, our logic is almost complete. So again, if we hit explicit button, we're simply going for a transition. If we hit implicit button, we're just opening our camera beyond the scope of our application. Now if we are also trying to send data, we first retrieve our data or whatever that is. We define our intent where it is going to go. We also define a bundle, put that data in our bundle, put a bundle in intent, and then start activity I. Okay, so we have some error, I guess. Yeah, we have not created this class. Again, copy this name. It's the same task. So how you created first activity, it's the same process. New activity, okay, and empty activity, just hit second activity. It's a layout name created too, so just hit finish, and our activity is created. As I told you, it's not just about creating a Java class. We also have a layout file here for second activity, and our activity is also defined in the manifest. Okay, so in case of second activity, we need to do something here. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to second activity code, delete this, again implement just a linear layout. Okay, sorry, linear layout. So yeah, we don't need these two parameters. We need our compulsory parameters: height, match parent, width, width, width. Okay, okay, so width is already implemented. Let's just go for height, match parent, and orientation vertical, and done. Yeah, so inside this we're going to insert a text view where we'll show the data that we have passed from the other activity, or the data where we have passed from main activity. So wrap content, let's just give an ID. This is data. We're done. Yeah, so we're going to go to second activity, define this text view here. Okay, text view, let's just write data. Now inside this what we need to do is create our, or first of all we need to initialize our data object. So find view by id r.id.data. Yeah, now what we need to do is we need to receive the value that we've sent from main activity to this activity. So obviously it's a string value, so we'll receive a string value here. So let's just hit u or send data equals to, first we're going to catch our intent, get intent, then we're going to catch extras, get extras dot, then since we've sent a string here, so we need to get string and then give the key associated with that string which you have given as a key. Okay, so let me just quickly review this if this is correct. So yeah, we've given a key here, so we need to input the same key to retrieve that value, and after retrieving this value we just need to display this value in our data. So data.setText send data. Okay, so it's done. Yeah, so we've created 3 buttons here. For explicit intent we're just going to main activity, we're just going from main activity to first activity. For implicit intent we're opening a camera from our application, and for explicit intent with data we're going to second activity but also passing some data here. Now we can run this application. I'm not sure if I have anything here. Okay, hold on, I'll just connect my phone and then I'll show you how the application is working. Okay, my phone is displayed here. I'll see if I can just open my screen too, or show my screen here too. Yes, okay, I can see my screen here. So let's just run this application from here and then see its output on the screen. As you can know, it does take some time to build your APK file and then run it on a screen, so just be patient with that. Okay, so since this is an MI phone, it asks you whether to allow the installation during your first installation. So I'll just hit install here and just hold on, it might be running. Yeah, the application is being installed. Okay, so the application seems to be running fine. So we have 3 buttons here, as I told you, our explicit intent, implicit intent, and then the one button where we send data. So let's just go for explicit intent first. We need to simply go to first activity where maybe our layout is just empty here. Let me just check. So activity underscore first, as you can see our layout is empty, so that's fine. It's going to an empty layout. So let's just go back, and for our implicit intent let's just check if it opens camera or not. Okay, my implicit intent is not working somehow. Okay, we'll check what is happening with that. We'll just go to a third button. So type something, maybe pass data or pass. Okay, somehow I cannot type. Saying okay, pass this data, and now send it. So as you can see, our data is being passed to the other intent. Meanwhile, just hold on, let me check what's happening with the camera code here, or opening the camera code here. Are we missing something? Hang on, I'll just check. Okay, I found my mistake, I guess. So it should not be a click on input, and this should be a click on implicit. And something I noticed it is we're actually trying to open camera, not browser, so let's just change this and then run it again. Just reload this. Meanwhile, check it on the screen. Okay, so the application is reloaded. Okay, it's running. Let's just see if we can go to camera with this or not. Okay, so it seems to be working fine. A camera application is being opened here. So let's just hit back now. Okay, so this is what intent was. So this topic covers everything about intents, including explicit intent, implicit intent, as well as passing data via intent. So this is all for now. I'll see you in the upcoming video. Thank you.